IVM.
Hello one, hello all. Welcome to the Diary of the Traveling Professor. And I'm Siddharth Deshmukh, your friendly neighborhood traveling professor himself. Well, on Thursdays, normally what I tend to do is I keep my diary entry a little more inward focused, allowing perhaps the listener to chew on the thought that I'm presenting over the weekend, and somewhere it could integrate in something useful or practical in a life or two. This is in sharp contrast to perhaps the Tuesday podcast, which focuses on a trend or something happening outside or some observation that we see or the rest of it. I try to follow this as much as I can, keep Thursdays more contemplative. So here is my contemplative thought this Thursday for you. Dasara has just passed and we are waiting for Diwali soon enough. And a lot of people are, I guess, getting into their stride of work in the new normal and trying to contemplate what kind of job do they want to aim for. And this is where the question keeps coming to my LinkedIn feed, in my DMs, or anywhere else where I meet people. People know that I do travel abroad, live abroad for a while, also work in India, work from outside of India. And yes, I am lucky and privileged enough to do that. But they want to know how they can work from abroad, especially if they are in the marketing or the sales or the new business development function. And this is where I kind of take a step back and tell them it's not as easy as you think it may be. And they're like, why? I can do it. I've got good English. I'm sure I can manage to adjust. And I'm sure that with my winning personality and charm, I'm sure that I can integrate myself in the team, or if I'm going out to meet clients, etc., etc., etc. But let me give you a for instance, and then let me talk you through the difficulties. I'm not saying it's a complete no, getting a job in the UK or in the US or anywhere outside of India, especially in the marketing, sales, or new business development functions. But I'm saying that there are a few challenges. And the challenges are essentially around the fact that all of these professions are culturally driven. Now, what do I mean? What I mean is, if you want to understand the nuances of Indian advertising, for example, if you see an Indian ad, I don't think a foreigner actually gets an Indian ad as much as an Indian does. To be honest, if you see Japanese ads, I can't make head or tail out of it. It is extremely difficult for any other culture to be completely cognizant of, some other culture's advertising and communication and media. Now, Netflix and Amazon Prime and a lot of the OTT platforms have certainly reduced this friction by introducing subtext. So we do understand that there are a lot of similarities between cultures, and we can understand, let's say, criminal UK and criminal France and criminal Germany and the rest of it. And we get the setting, we get the surrounding, and it kind of works in spite of it being in different languages. Criminal UK, of course, is in English. By the way, see it, guys. Amazing series. But coming back on the point, I think marketing is a function that needs you as a practitioner to understand the local culture, the local consumer, what drives the local consumer, what, are the barriers, what is the consumer passionate about, what is she, driven by, what is he focused on. This is very difficult to understand unless and until you've lived there, been there, done that, and actually been of that culture. It's not something that you can get by seeing a museum or two, or, just by living in a place for a month or two. It is deeper than that. And it's not just about mastering the accent or mastering, your winning charm or personality to kind of connect with other people. It is more than that. It is actually understanding what levers go off in the consumer's mind once you say something in a particular way or you don't. And there are many hilarious examples or not so hilarious examples of how things go wrong, but I'm talking of more than just that, right? If you're looking at seriously developing a career in marketing or new business development or sales, wherein you're dependent on a deep understanding of the consumer or the client or the way in which things happen in the marketplace, you've got a long road ahead of you to study. So then what do you do? Is it really a ruled out option? I suspect that for a lot of people who are in the marketing function in India trying to go abroad, it is kind of a ruled out thing, because if you are an employer in any of these cultures, why won't you pick a competent, person from that specific culture than from a culture that is different from theirs? So, for example, if it's a UK-based job and it's a marketing job, why won't I pick up a UK-based person who's as competent as you, who is applying for the same job from India, right? Because obviously the UK person would know the nuance much more. It is unfortunately that way. However, there are 2 or 3 ways in which you can hack into the system, in spite of these challenges. Way number 1 is by actually getting connected to the IT or BPO or offshoring sort of sectors, and getting a job in an Indian company with offices abroad, and then you going on a visa, going over there, and then looking towards migrating towards that country, and then developing your connects over there and your network over there. Works better in new business development and client servicing rather than actual marketing as a function or brand building as a function, right? It does work, but of course with visa rules and the rest of it becoming tougher, and laws against migrants or immigrants becoming tougher, this route is getting scarcer. Well, what's route number 2 then? Route number 2 is perhaps studying abroad in a university and actually spending a lot of time in that specific culture, and then trying to look at a job after you finish your studies. Very difficult though. It's easier said than done, because again, the same problem of why should I take you rather than somebody who is locally born and bred, why should I sponsor your visa, comes into being. So you have to be truly exceptional as a candidate and truly have impressed your employer for your employer to take on that additional burden of cost and effort to kind of naturalize you in that country. Number 3 is perhaps another very interesting way. It is by getting into data and analytics if you are numbers oriented, because number crunching can actually happen, and patterns around number crunching, especially for marketing, can happen wherever you are, right? Whether you're from India or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or wherever you are from, you could analyze numbers and data and you could prove your point as a number crunching marketing analyst wherever you may be, and get a job in a country that you want to go to, whichever country you want to go to, which is aspirational for you. So perhaps the marketing analyst sort of thing works much stronger than a normal sort of job situation wherein you're trying to go for, because you're good at storytelling, or you're good at creativity, or you're good at strategy development. If it's number crunching, it kind of goes beyond the culture that you're in. The final way, perhaps, and the most, let's say, weird way, I would suggest, is to look at a culture which is going to look at your own culture as aspirational. For example, if you go to one of those newly developing African countries, right, which are growing fast, but look towards maybe India as a much more mature market wherein they can learn from as far as marketing is concerned, you will be welcome with open arms, okay, or at least more open arms, I would say. That is the other way of looking at going and working abroad. But of course, those motivations are different from going to a culture that you're aspirationally bound to, like maybe the US or the UK or Europe or something like that. But if your idea is to become a world traveler and get an experiences, this could be an option. Well, I've given you some hacks, but essentially, guys, it is tough, because marketing, sales, and new business development is very deeply embedded in culture. I'd like to leave you with this thought as well. With the country that you're in India, okay, specifically, growing and becoming stronger, what is wrong in getting a job in India in these fields and making a name for it? It's quite likely that India will become very aspirational for a lot of the countries that you're trying to go to, because they're aspirational for you right now. How about becoming the cause of creating India as an aspirational country for other people to look towards for their jobs 20 years downstream? Well, there's a thought for you. Contemplative. Have a think. I know I did say that Thursdays would be contemplative. Well, here's one of those. And I hope you liked it, this diary entry of mine. Many more to come from where this came from. And do follow me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, where I am, who else but the Traveling Professor. Do look at ivmpodcast.com or just download the app if you like podcasts like these. And until next time then, see you soon.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. What a week we had this week. We had so much crossover, so many great guests. I don't even know where to start. Okay, yeah, I do know where to start. Let's start with Uncle Please Sit. Uncle Please Sit, Joel and Tushar had Hamsini Hariharan. Hamsini hosts a show called States of Anarchy with their network. She is a China expert, and they discussed the India-China relationship. Really fascinating conversation. Cyrus had 2 conversations this week instead of our normal Thursday Cock and Bull. Great conversations, both of them. We'll be back with our regular Cock and Bull next week. But this week, you could definitely check out the conversation he had with Varun Grover. Really fascinating stuff. And Nikhil Taneja, who was the founder of Yuva and the creative director for the India Film Project Festival, which is going on this weekend. He was on the show as well. Cyrus was also on Advertising is Dead this weekend with Varun Dugirala. Cyrus and Varun discussed Cyrus's intent on randomness. Ranveer Brar guested on Gauri Devi Dayal show. This rounds on me. Another amazing conversation over there. Priyanka Khimani, one of the best IP lawyers in this country, was on Storytellers and Storysellers for a fascinating conversation. Definitely do check that out. And finally, I wanted to congratulate Zarina Poonawalla for her 100th episode. She had Ashish Vidyarthi as a guest on that. If you have not been listening to the Empowering series, please do. It's one of the great shows out there. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Whether you're an established sports person or a budding one, or simply a sports enthusiast, join us, Tanvi and Shlok.
We are 2 passionate pro badminton players talking policy, mindset and everything sport.
So tune in to the Millennial Athlete every Monday.
Only on the IVM Podcast Network.
Trust us, it's gonna be lit.